Today we're talking about securing your gas block on your AR15 barrel. Hey guys, my name is Dave Tim. Thank you very much for checking out this video. We sincerely appreciate you tuning in. Today we're talking about the different security methods to attach a gas block, in particular a low profile gas block, to the barrel of your AR-15. There are a couple different methods out there, and in my opinion, some are definitely better than others. Now, the reason why we're not talking about the front sight post like the traditional A2 style is that those are secured with 2 pins, and in fact that is some of the most robust gas blocks out there, period. I mean, that's just solid. Now, another thing that we're not going to talk about in this video is actually converting one of those fixed front sight post bases, because that is also the gas block, and you can convert that to a low profile gas block if you wanted to add like a free float handguard or something like that. Now, why would one want to use a low profile gas block? Well, a lot of times it's because you want to have a free floating handguard that extends past the gas block to not only protect it, but also allow you to mount accessories further out towards the muzzle, such as maybe a light, a grip, sight radius, whatever those benefits are to you. But that's typically the reason that we see people wanting to put a low profile gas block, is so they can have that free float rail. Solid, good choice, don't get me wrong. Now, when it comes to getting the gas block on, let's first take a look at a brand new barrel. So this is a barrel from a quality manufacturer, a good manufacturer. I love these barrels, but as you can see, we have the gas port, which obviously we need to line up with the gas block, and immediately opposite is one dimple, which hopefully you guys can see there on camera. And even amongst manufacturers, dimples can vary. So for example, here's one company's dimple, and here is another company. And again, both of these companies make solid barrels. I wouldn't hesitate to use and recommend either one, but if we actually look, even the differences here, that dimple versus this dimple, there is a difference. Now, what that dimple is for is if we have a low profile gas block such as this type, it actually has set screws on the bottom, and this set screw would then tighten and then secure itself into this dimple. Now, you'll notice though that a lot of these barrels only have one dimple, when a lot of the gas blocks on the market actually have 2 set screws. So this dimple is immediately opposite of the gas port if it's done right. And there are jigs and things like that that you can get. So such as this jig here, and this is something that I use in the shop a fair amount, especially if I get a barrel that doesn't have any dimples and they want a low profile gas block installed. We'll use this jig, which has a pointed set screw on the inside, and that aligns with the gas port. And then we have these 2 holes here, which dictate our spacing depending on the gas block. Now, some gas blocks will fit this jig. I have a couple other jigs for different spacing between the holes depending on which gas block the customer has. But in my opinion, it's always a good idea to, at minimum, have 2 dimples if you're going to have 2 screws. Now, this is one method, is we can dimple the barrel, and then we can tighten down the set screws. They would lock into those dimples, and then we can also use a thread locking compound. Now, the reason why we use these dimples is to prevent the block from rotating. So the idea is that the set screws will tighten, protrude into the dimple, and kind of lock, and then once it's locked in place, that would prevent the gas block from rotating under use or impact. And if this rotated, it could block the gas port, giving us a stoppage. It could bend the gas tube. It could cause a lot of issues that we want to avoid. So that's why we want that gas block to remain locked in the correct position in alignment with the gas port, so we are getting proper gas and everything is in proper alignment. Now, the other method is to pin your gas block to the barrel, and in my opinion, this is a superior method. And in fact, it takes a lesson from the fixed front sight post that I was talking about earlier with those 2 pins securing it to the barrel using a taper pin, which I'll show you here in a second. We're using that same method to secure this low profile gas block. You can see it has a pin right here. Now, this particular barrel is an old one that I did a long time ago, so it's seen some use. As you can see, it has the 2 dimples that we machined in, so these set screws will lock into place. But then I also drilled and used a reamer, which is this tool right here. It kind of looks like a drill bit, but it's actually cone shaped, and I'll show you why here in a second. So we drill into the block. About half of that, give or take, will line up with the barrel, and then this cross pin or a taper pin, and it's kind of cone shaped. I know it's tough to see on camera, I can't zoom in super close, but you can see it actually has a slight taper to it, so it almost wedges in. So what happens is when we line up the block, and we have this in, I use a mill, so I line everything up in the mill, I make sure I drill my hole straight through, and then I use this reamer and I ream to a certain depth until the pin fits. And now I can put this pin in, and then we would take a punch and hammer and pound it in place, and that would wedge it in there. And that's in essence locking the pin from moving forward, because we are also entering that material that we removed from the barrel that I showed you earlier, that line that was in between those two dimples. So we're locking it in there, and plus it is an interference fit when we press that pin into place. So it prevents the block from moving back and forth, it prevents the block from rotating. It is a very, very solid method to secure the block to the barrel, and in my opinion it is preferred. Now, this is a service that can easily be accomplished by pretty much any competent gunsmith or machinist, and all you generally need is either a jig to hold the gas block and drill straight. Otherwise you can use a small center drill to get it started, and then continue through with the appropriate sized drill bit, and then use the reamer to ream for proper depth checking, and then press interference, fit the pin in the block. Now, when I personally do this in my shop, I also pin the block as shown here, and then I will also secure the set screws with some high temperature thread locker, just as a fail-safe, almost like an insurance policy on top of wearing your seatbelt and your airbag. But in my opinion, for any serious use competition rifle, duty rifle, home defense rifle, this is a critical component. You want to make sure it's secured to the barrel. I highly recommend pinning versus just using set screws. I can't tell you how many matches, classes, whatever I've been to where I've seen gas blocks twist, loosen, come forward, whatever it might be, because there's either no dimple, only one, they're not properly thread locked, not properly torqued, or they're using an improper type of screw. A good quality set screw will actually have teeth that'll help bind and grind into the barrel as well. So don't be afraid to check that hardware as well. You want to make sure you're using good quality hardware. So I hope that answers a question that I get a fair amount, talking about different ways to attach the gas block to the barrel and why it's important, and also that it separates, quality builds from maybe less than quality builds. I'm not saying it's a bad build if it's not pinned, because there are companies out there on the market that do not pin their gas blocks, but they're still very robust. They're very strong because they use thread locker, they're using the proper screws, torque, etc. But in my opinion, the best method is this pinning, and when I see a manufacturer that pins their low profile gas blocks, that tells me that they have an attention to detail and they care about at least that component of the rifle. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I would love to talk more about AR stuff, or if you have any requests for other videos, please leave that in the comment section as well. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and find us online and on social media. Thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great day.